Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Kata and I'm talking today about self-sabotage and self-love. I'm talking about how you really don't self-love and just things that I've particularly noticed in my own life and how I mistreat myself, how I talk down to myself, like all the different things that I do that are not loving and kind to me. Is really what I want to touch on today because a lot of times I think we focus in life on the externals and on other people and what they did and what they said and all that stuff. And we actually forget how much we criticize ourselves, how much we don't love ourselves by having constant negative self talk, how much we don't support ourselves by having beliefs about ourselves that we are not worthy of abundance or we are not worthy of love or we are not worthy of money or whatever it is. So this past weekend and through this new moon, these are the things and this is the awareness that has come up for me personally that I've really just noticed, like, oh my goodness, all of the ways that I self-sabotage, all the ways that I mistreat myself is so obvious now where before it wasn't. So that in itself I think is great because it just shows me and it tells me that I'm definitely moving in the right direction, which is the direction of growth, spiritual growth and personal expansion, right? When you start to understand yourself on a deeper level, when you start to realize who you are, it starts to push out all of those things, all of those negative things and those negative beliefs and stuff within you. It starts to push them out and to the surface so that you can realize, because now you actually have the capacity to understand what's coming to the surface. And that's what I really like about ascension and about how, and mindfulness, and how we're actually all awakening and how we're all going through this process. I think it's so neat to see and to observe one's own stability within oneself once you get to that level of understanding of who you actually are and why you say those negative things to yourself. Because I know personally I am definitely one who has been extremely hard on myself, extremely, and there's so many different ways that I'm hard on myself that I'm catching now. Like, just simply this morning, it was a bit of a rough go getting my daughter going to school, and like, obviously I was upset because she just can be in such la la land sometimes and doesn't realize, like, we got to get going, right? And I do have a certain expectation for her. Like, she's 10 years old, she should be capable of recognizing that, and she is capable of recognizing that, it's time to go and, we got to rush. It's just she's so used to being in that comfort zone that I created for her. And then it was crazy because as I drove her to school and kind of reprimanded a little bit, like just told her, like, this isn't okay, you can't be late in the mornings and blah blah, right? Just like, you have to put more effort and listen to mommy and get ready on time, like all this shit. Like, so I was saying all this stuff to her, and then after, on my drive back home, I'm like feeling guilty that I'm yelling at the poor kid, and that's how she's starting her day. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I can't do that. That is self-sabotage. That is exactly the things that we do and the ways that we undermine our own values, because ultimately it is a value that I'm trying to teach her. So why am I feeling guilty for trying to teach my kid values and for trying to teach her to manage her time better, because it's something that I know that I have had to work on so much. So these are the things, like, it's just one little example, right, of say, you yell at your kid and then you feel guilty afterwards. Why? Ask yourself, why am I feeling guilty right now? Because I yelled at them? Because I made them feel uncomfortable? Well, guess what? Life is sometimes very uncomfortable. And realizing within myself of how I was like overcompensating and how I was constantly overgiving. Whew, that's a big one. That's a really, really big one. Is overgiving to other people. And I realized that I was doing this because I wasn't loving myself. So all of that extra that we give to other people, that I was giving to other people, was all the extra that I knew that I should be investing into myself, and I wanted to be investing in myself, but I just couldn't because I wasn't at that level to understand that I am worthy and that I am valuable, right? Because self-sabotage comes from you not seeing yourself as worthy of something, right? And usually that something is something that you want in your life. It's something good for you and something that supports you, and whether that's money, whether it's a relationship, it doesn't matter. but we ultimately know that what we desire is good for us. That's why we desire it. And, when we don't get it, we get pissed. And I used to get super, super pissed and frustrated. Like, why am I not able to have this come into my life? And then, like, oh my God, I realized it was like, because I'm not letting it into my life. I'm not letting it into my life because I keep believing that I'm not worthy of it. Like, I want something, but if I don't feel worthy of it, you can want it all you want. You're not going to get it. And that's what I have realized, is that I've been screwing myself over, not getting the things I want because I didn't actually feel worthy of having it in my life. And now that I'm realizing that that's such bullshit and that that's such bad programming and that's all that it is, now that I'm realizing that, I'm like crawling out of this hole of self-pity, essentially, because that's what I realized yesterday. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm sitting here wallowing in like self-pity and feeling sorry for myself that, why can't I have, $1 million, or why can't I have this or that or the other thing, right? When instead I could have just taken action, and even if it's small little baby step actions, to work towards that goal, to actually get and receive that goal. Because when I look at manifestation, and I have watched like a lot of videos about manifestation, I've come to realize that most people can't manifest what they want, me included, because we're actually focusing on not having it in our lives instead of focusing on it already being there. And so there's truly this like circle that you get stuck in, and it's all about your mindset. It's all about how you perceive and how you see the things in your life that are happening to you or for you or against you, however you see it, right? Those are the things that are making the difference. Those are the things that are influencing whether you receive something or not, whether you have good in your life or not, whether you keep repeating patterns or not, whether you keep attracting the same kind of person or not. And that brings me to the other piece of realizing within myself that I've actually come to a point where I was not trusting myself. I'm still in it, to be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm not. I'm still actually in this because I'm just having this moment, like this aha moment. I'm just waking up to this realization. So I'm still stuck in like this worthiness trap or unworthiness trap. And as I'm realizing that I create everything in my life based on how worthy I feel of that something, it's like I can completely reroute. I can completely change the way that I look at it now, because that's all that needed to change was my perspective about it, my belief about it. So I have recognized a lot of different ways in which I screw myself over, a lot of different ways in which I actually don't allow myself to have the things that I desire because I don't believe I'm worthy of it. So if you're one of those people, I'm telling you right now that it's just a mindset and it's just a belief system, and it all comes from your programming and nothing more. Nothing more, because when you look at children, they're born perfect and beautiful, and then they're molded and programmed into the people that they become based on experiences they have. So if you felt unworthy as a child, if you didn't get enough attention, if you didn't get enough affection, if you didn't get enough hugs and kisses, if you didn't hear I love yous enough, or if you just felt neglected by your parents often, then guess what? You're going to have major, major worthiness issues. And I didn't even have it to that extent. Like, I had a lot of people around me as I was growing up, but I don't think I felt the support at all. Like, to be honest, I felt pretty like on the side. And I had a sister close to my age, and we were playing together, or I have a sister, and as a child we would play together, but it's the adults that influences the most. And a lot of times I felt super vulnerable and I felt super unsafe, and the adults didn't really notice that. They didn't notice that I was a sensitive child. They didn't really pick up on the fact that I was just different from other children. I was not as open to meeting other people. I was super shy, super introverted. And, now realizing it's because I had such a sensitivity to everyone and everything around me. That was what was creating my introvertness. And in actuality, I'm not really an introvert. I'm kind of both. I'm extroverted and introverted at the same time. But I was introverted for most of my life because of the programming and the conditioning I received as a child. And now that I realize that, now I'm able to break out of it. Now I'm able to free myself of this fucking burden, because that's what it has been. It has been like speed bump after speed bump. It's like trying to take off, but you keep encountering these like major speed bumps and you just can't like get momentum. That's what it has felt like in my life. And I have screwed myself over in a lot of different ways because I kept running that false programming that I received as a child, or that I don't even know, like we created as children. We don't, because I know my parents love me very much. They always have loved me very much, and they did the best they could. But my parents were young when they had me, and they had, you know, just, it was a very different world. This is old school European mentality, right? Very different way from how we bring our children up now. And we didn't have internet then or any of that stuff. So way less exposure to the outside world, and it was much more exposure just to the people that were around me, right? The adults, parents, grandparents, and cousins, and whoever else. But we go through a lot of different things as children. We process things in very different ways as children versus how you process it when you're an adult and you have a clear understanding about people and situations. And so I internalized a ton of pain, a ton of trauma, a ton of things that were just upsetting to me, things I didn't want to hear. I would get chronic ear infections up until the age of 4. Up until the age of 4. I had so many ear infections, as a matter of fact, that I actually went deaf by the time I was 4, and I had to get tubes put in my ears. So because I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear the arguing and the fighting and the bickering over money. And that was the other piece I realized. It's like, I have such a bad relationship with money. And I have that bad relationship with money because my parents had a super bad relationship with money. And they always came from that perspective of not having enough. It was never enough. It was never enough. Even when I would watch them, like as a 3-year-old, counting, you know, the bills and whatever, because they had a business, a flower business. So, and yet I grew up in this mentality of it's never enough, and you have to work your ass off to get money. So there's so many constructs, there's so many different theories, there's so many different viewpoints and perspectives and different ways of looking at things that I adopted and I took in as a child that had nothing to do with me and nothing to do with my free spirit and my belief of like everything is possible. It had nothing to do with it, and yet it got programmed so deeply that it got me stuck in a major bad cycle, and I was stuck in it for a super fucking long time. And that stuckness really created a ton of unhappiness and turmoil in my life, and I didn't realize that I was creating that for myself because I wasn't able to release my past. I wasn't awake enough, I wasn't aware enough to release and surrender the past and allow myself to heal from it, and allow myself to see that that was all just an illusion, all of it, and that who I truly am is who I'm actually discovering right now. I'm only beginning to discover who I truly am now. So, I don't know. Pay attention to your own inner self-talk. That is kind of the primary message today, is pay attention to that, because boy is it toxic. And if you really pay attention, you'll realize how toxic it is. And it's so ingrained that I find myself waking up in the morning and like already there's going to be like a judgment. So now I have to really pay attention, and I'm really trying to be aware and catch myself so I don't fall, because I keep falling emotionally. I keep like crashing and burning, and I'm so tired of that. And it's like, how can I keep myself steady? How can I keep myself in flow and living in ease? Well, that's going to come from changing this, and how I think, and how I feel about situations, and how I perceive situations. So it's cool. Like every single day, I see the light getting brighter and brighter. Because I will say I've been through the dark night of the soul, and I've been going through that for the last 2 years, and it's been really hard. Really, really fucking hard. Like it took so much. There's so much that shifted and changed and broke and fell apart and then got reassembled within me. It was so much. So if you're there and if you're going through that, just know that you're going to be fine. Like you just got to really work on how you think and how you perceive yourself. That will be the game changer. And this year can be a massive opportunity to change the game for yourself, because the energies will really, really support it. So that's my message for today, guys. And I hope this was helpful for someone, even if it's just one person. I just hope it was helpful. So don't be so hard on yourself, okay? Love yourself. Take care. Bye.